So here we go then. Today we're back on Elsa, the Volvo 740. There's lots to be doing on the 240 Lily, but there's just a few things I want to take care of on Elsa, mainly because Miss Involvo'd is driving now she's got her license, and this is her car of choice. Being an automatic, I am trying to slowly push her towards driving Lily and getting her in the manual, but yeah, we're working on it. But in the meantime, she's getting used to the roads in this thing, and as a result we need to actually do a bit more on it. There's some things that it needs doing that don't really bother me too much, but she would prefer that they were taken care of. So yeah, we're going to make a start on that today. So what it is, quite a common thing, play in the steering, but that is all free play. That movement you can see in the wheel is the free play that shouldn't be there. And on the road, especially when you're going into a bend, you can really notice it. So the best thing to do is actually to have someone go under the car, or you go under the car, and then the other person push and pulls the wheel at 9 and 3 o'clock side to side. So one person does that, so you're highlighting the play, and someone else underneath the car, and then just start touching along the steering components to see where it's coming from. It's quite tricky to do it on your own. I can do it on this because it's such bad play that I can use one hand and then use the other hand to feel, but it's definitely better if you've got a helper to do this. I'm gonna have to do it on my own. Miss Involvo'd is busy. But it's quite bad, so I can do it with one hand, so, and luckily there's still a little bit of tread on the tyres, so I can dig in. But if I go back and forth, there's no movement inside there because the ball joint can wear itself, and then that's the most common. And then you've got play in the joint here, but that feels tight. So then basically if I feel my way across and I go further and further in, I can feel it. So when you hold the rod, you can feel it, and then you just have to squeeze the gaiter. You've got another joint behind this rubber gaiter here, it's dust cover, and then you can feel it when you pinch it. You can feel just a ball and socket, and you can feel that the ball inside that socket is loose, and it just should be tight, quite simply, so you know that that's where your issue is. I go the other side of it just to make sure it's not deceptive and there isn't loose bolts on the steering rack or a problem inside the rack or something like that. But feeling over the rack in this direction, there's no movement, so I also need to identify the correct steering rack to be able to get the right parts for it, obviously. So there's no actual identification that I can see on the rack itself. I don't know if it's covered in under seal or something, or it's just somewhere where you can't see it, but there is a way to identify it. So from these diagrams here you can see straight away exactly what's going on. So this one is obviously a cam rack because it's got the small opening here. The ZF ones have a bigger opening with a disc on the end. Yeah, nice and easy. So here we go then, boys and girls. Now who am I kidding? So we're back on the wobbly old biscuit today, and we're going to pick up where we left off. But I did just want to show you guys that, well, I was going to show you two things. One, that I cleaned it, even though it's dirty already. Give it a quick freshen up. Which actually looks quite nice when she's like a little bit clean. Obviously, like I probably mentioned, I was using it as a works vehicle before, so she got absolutely trashed. It just looked like any other works van. But now I've actually hoovered it and give it a wipe. It's actually quite nice, isn't she? But it could be a lot nicer, but we're going to work on it over time. But yeah, I gave it a clean as well on the outside, and obviously took off the roof rack as well. I do prefer it like this. It did look cool with the rack on it, but gave it that utility feel. But I think this suits her a lot nicer. She looks longer and just smarter and just nicer in some ways. So yeah, I'm just going to stick with this look, I think, now that I don't really use it for work anymore, unless we've got to collect any big furniture that won't fit inside, of course, which isn't very often because basically everything fits in these cars. We've got the boot, some stop leak, a nut, and most importantly the tie rod. So yeah, we'll get it fitted. It's actually been a very long time since I did any steering work on anything, and I've never done it on a Volvo, so yeah, could be interesting. Let's give it a go. So basically what we need to do first is get this nut loose. Then we need to obviously loosen the track rod end. We need to get this nut off. Oh, better not let that get on the ground. Fast rust loosener, cold shock, blaster type stuff. Good alternative to heat. Hit it with something freezing cold to shock the nut. There we go. So same procedure with this. Easy. It's too easy working on these Volvos. It's like someone's just had this off last week. I'm going to hit this to try and break this ball, this taper out of here. It's probably easier to turn the wheel all the way over to get better access to this, but so I'm not hitting the bumper or my camera. Whack. Should have done that ages ago. There she goes. Doing a bit of weight saving as well. Weight loss program for the Volvo 740. There we go. So that's it free. So now what we want to do is just count the turns, so we'll have 2 ways to check that it goes back together in the same position that it came off. But it's good to get it ballpark where it was, of course, to drive it to somewhere to get it tracked up. So we'll just count these turns. 1, 2, 12, 13. 13 bang on pretty much. There's some weird plastic clip. Let's take this boot off. Get rid of that. So we just pull this forward. Can you see it? So that tiny bit of play there and you can see how much that was at the wheel when we checked. So now what we need to do is figure out how to take this off. Down. It's tight. You bastard. It's going to be a tricky one, isn't it? To do. Yeah, because it'd be better if I had to pull it towards me, but I mustn't be able to. It's got to screw on like that, so it'd have to come down like this. Ah, there it goes. Oh, that was tight. To be fair, I don't know actually if there's a slot on this inner piece, but if it's like the other one, then there won't be. No slot outs, no slots at all, cutouts. They don't care. So yeah, with these things then, so this is why it's really important when these are split, which this one would soon be about to, I think, that you change them really, because once they split, they let all the dust and debris inside. It's not happened to this one really, because it's mostly okay. It's just grease in there, but it's just worn out. It's probably, I think it's from the UK. It was fine before and then it went wrong in the UK. That left side, that near side front, took such a pounding on UK roads, like potholes, and like it was just absolutely just smashed. But yeah, it's just old anyways, and it's just worn, so we've got the same amount of ribs. It's different. It's not the right one. I hate it when this happens. I was going to say, they're usually pretty spot on with their parts. I don't think I've ever had wrong parts from them. And then I picked this up and it's not correct. The thread's different. So there should be, on the B pillar, typically it's the most damaged part, but it's this part here that says something, Steuerwachsel, or I don't know what it's, steering gear. It says there, steering gear. That's a 3, isn't it? Of course, that's not a 2. That's got to be a 3. I mean, that's obviously 100%. That's obviously the cam gear boot, but they've fit it onto a ZF rack. It's a bit of a trap, isn't it? It's been a little bit tricky because I've had some problems with the parts, getting the wrong ones, being confused, so I'll try and keep it short and sweet because otherwise the video will be way too long. Basically, so the car says that it should be a certain type of steering rack, but what seems to be on the car, or at least the components attached to that steering rack on the car, don't match what the car thinks it should have. So on the identification plate it says number 3, which should mean that it should have a ZF steering rack, but it doesn't seem to. So from the tie rod boots, and actually as it turns out the tie rods themselves, it's the cam gear steering rack, not the ZF rack, which should mean that on the car it should say number 2, not number 3. So I think potentially there someone has actually replaced the steering rack at some point and put a different rack on. But in any case, to further complicate things, when I ordered the part, the wrong part actually showed up. It was actually different measurements to what was listed on the website. So there's like there's been two traps that have made it really confusing and made me just question everything. So I actually used my trusty, good old Swedish made feeler gauge and started to do some measurements, because obviously we could see, so this is the old one here, this is the one that was sent to me first, and obviously we could see that if we've got an M18 thread here, and the one that I was sent was an M16. So yeah, not correct. And on the website it did list at Scandix that the part that I was ordering, whether it's the right part for the car or not, depending on whether she's got the right bits fitted to the right rack and all that kind of confusion, still it says that it should have been an M18. So I actually went through to Scandix, I messaged them, I said, okay, here's the situation, can you help me out? Can you help me figure out what's going on? So they came back to me and they said, somehow the wrong tie rod has actually got in the mix. It's not the correct one. We sent you the wrong one, basically. So they said, we'll send the new one, we'll send the correct one out today, and then we'll send you a returns label for the other one, for the wrong one. So that was brilliant. So and actually they sent it out last night, and this morning it was at the door. So that was really awesome. This was the replacement one that showed up, and again, although it's the cam gear rod that this car shouldn't have, it matches the old one. So I've got a dab of grease on there just so it goes on smooth, because I offered it up before and when it was dry it was grabbing. I thought, is it a good idea to put grease on it? Maybe it should be dry, but it was like jumping, so it's quite hard to get the right tightness, isn't it, when that happens. That's annoying, because some of them do come with a slot. You can get a big spanner on it, like probably I don't know, 27 or whatever it is. I'm gonna have to do it with grips. Just gonna do it up as tight as I can with this. There's a little slot there. We give this a punch and it will push it into that slot, a little bit like a hub nut, for example. Not the hub nut, a hub nut. Happy birthday, Mr. Involvo'd.
Pen blwydd hapus.
This is quite difficult. But yeah, it's not the easiest to do, actually, especially because this is in the way, so you can't actually get square on it. I mean, it would have been nice if they had put it here, but yeah, I don't know. It's engineers again, isn't it? See if it stays on when I turn the wheel then. She's a bit rattly. Yeah, it's not gonna be like a new car, but at least now it's...
Ooh.
Be careful, we've got shopping in the back.
Yeah, but it's way better.
Rally driver.
Did you see?
I saw. Yeah, when you go into a corner, it doesn't... You don't have that play.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like shift over.
So there's actually fun in driving again.
Yeah.
Nice.